Hey guys, today we're doing another Void 3.0 build, except it's gonna be for Warlocks. Yay for you! Titan 1's coming up next, because I realized people like the Void 3.0 builds. I guess I'll go grinding and do some stasis builds next. But first I need to thank you all and say, hey yo, you all watched my videos, and I have gotten the most views I've ever gotten. I mean, 1,000 views in a good week is pretty good for me. I mean, my average views per video was, I think, 7. So thank you, I appreciate it. And if you have any things that you want to do, change with this build, you can obviously do that. You can just ask me, go in comments, ask me. Now if you want me to, just say on the comments, and I can also give you the raw footage for comparison for these, because the footage I'm showing on this video is comparisons to the two main weapons you'll be using for this build, which is this weapon right here, which is Collective Obligation, and the other comparison will be Graviton Lance. Now right now you're seeing Collective Obligation, which is harder to get, so that's why I came up with the alternative, which is Graviton Lance. It may seem like it was bad because it has been pretty bad ever since it really came out, but since Void 3.0 came out, that has changed, and you'll see through the footage. If you want the raw footage, basically just say in the comments, I'll put it in the description. Now when it comes to this build, I'm gonna tell you some of the things that, well, are important. First of all, what I'm gonna be telling you is the weapons you could be using, and depending on the style, like if you're in a raid, you need DPS, put on these weapons. If you're in just a casual strike like this one, it's the certain weapons you're supposed to put on. And there is no exotic needed for this build, I should point that out. I am using transversive steps in this footage, but that's just basically because I like transversive steps. But you can really use anything you want. I can't really get any in my head right now, but there's definitely other exotics you could use, and it could still be fun with this build, and probably enhance it, to be honest. And when it comes to if you're using an echo that you don't want to use in this build, ask me and I can give you some more alternatives, like I did with the hunter build, because I've been seeing some people asking me for alternatives, why does this here, do you really need this, could we use something else? And so I'll tell you that in the comments if you want to. Now of course we're going to be talking about armor mods. Now in this build, armor mods are extremely important, because if you don't have the armor mods, it won't cause what is very important in this build to happen, which is what's supposed to happen is here you throw a grenade and you get a grenade right back, but it works in a more higher stake situation, basically, where you kill a bunch of enemies at once and you instantly get it back, but you have to use another ability. So basically moving back and forth through your melee and your nade, as well as Child of the Old Gods. Now super is really OP in this, by the way. It's very OP. This is the best build I've made. Remember the hunter build that everyone seemed to like? Yeah, this one's better in many ways. The weapons we're using is better than Funnel Web in my opinion, and the super is stronger, does better DPS, as well as the mods. We have more mods, and it's a little bit easier to get these mods. There's a couple mods that are a little hard to get, and I'll go into detail with that after I show you the mods. But put simply, I'm just gonna say this is a harder build to get than most, but once you get it, it will be the most fun you've ever had with a build, and definitely the most PvE fun you've ever had on a Warlock. This build is nearly invincible, has nearly infinite grenades, and is really fast if you want it to be. I mean, I kinda am biased because I have 100 mobility and transversive steps, but if you don't think about that and just think about the possibilities this build can have, it's endless. There's a part in this I'll talk about when you see in this video that I don't think I ran out of nade energy the entire fight. I did not run out of energy. It just kept going, kept killing. And I should also say that I am a little bit gonna go on a rampage of talking, explain this build, how much I love it, how much it's gonna be used, where you can use it, how OP it is. But if you do not want to see any of that, the timestamps for where the mods and stuff is right, because I know you guys would like to see the mods. So if you don't want to see me rambling, you can go to that time right there. But if you're here to stay, let's explain this build better. Now, I'm still before the build is being shown, so I'm just gonna explain how collective obligation works for this build. There is volatile rounds like every Void 3.0 build you've ever seen, so it goes there. And there's also weakening. I'm gonna be honest with you, Chief, I don't even know where the weakening comes from, but you get it. You can see from the point that you get it with the little dots on the site, collected obligation. So this does have a weakening point, and it also has Devour for DPS, but I mean, it's a Warlock, a Void Warlock, of course it's gonna have Devour. So Devour also makes it so. Reload collective obligation? Wow, I am a compulsive reloader kind of man. So it's useless for me, but it's very useful for other people. So I'm gonna say, if you don't like to reload, collective obligation go really juicy with this build. And then Graviton Lance, well, I mean, it's basically a substitute, but it's not really a substitute because it's just as good. I mean, when you have a substitute for something, usually it's like good, very similar, but not the same. It's not better, it's a little worse. But in this situation, they are both the same. So if you don't have collective obligation, I mean, you're not obligated to put on collective obligation. But I recommend, if you can get it, please use it instead and see how you like it, because it's very nice. I recommend a lightweight frame for your kinetic, because, well, speed is key in a lot of builds for fun. Like, this build is for fun, it's not really made for Nightfalls. It can work in Nightfalls, I added in a little thing for it, so it can. And if you really want to use it in Nightfalls, well, I added in a few things so you can. Like some room for your arms if you want to use that and all that. But let's get to the whatchamacallit build. Now we're going to start with weapons. I use Wasteland Durham 5 or Succession. Both are very useful depending on if you're in raid or not. Collective Obligation, Graviton Lance, Lawrence Driver, very interesting. The other half, Falling Guillotine, Palmyra B for TPS. Now to go with the armor mods, Elemental Armaments, Harmonic Siphon, 2 of them, Elemental Time Dilation, Grenade Kickstart, Bountiful Wells, very useful, Fund of Might, Absolution, 2 of them, Volatile Flow, Overload Grenades, very useful, Devouring Depths. Now to the subclass details. Be careful. Cataclysm, Healing Rift, Burst Slide, Pocket Singularity, Vortex Grenade, Feed the Void, Child of the Old Gods, Echo Provision, Echo of Starvation, Echo of Leeching, and Echo of Explosion. Now, since you watched it, most people are probably done with it right here, but I'm going to explain how it works now. So please stay tuned in if you like my content, and if you are, I really thank you, because I didn't think most of you get this far. So I'm not going to make you leave a like, but I'd appreciate if you did. Now this is making me sound so much like a real YouTuber. Nah, I'm just a guy who's trying to help out people and show the builds I make, because I kind of am the kind of guy who likes to be a little bit original, have a little fun. Now, as you can see here, this is the Graviton Lance footage, which is very interesting, by the way. It's basically like a third explosion mod added on to all the mods that are already there. And when it comes to elemental armaments, which is on here, it makes it a lot better. Now, it also makes the timing a lot better with elemental time dilation that was added in. So it kind of makes everything slower for the, the buff to go away. So you can throw in, your Devour can stay longer, and your Void damage can be longer. And my favorite, the good old volatile rounds. Now with this weapon, you can obviously see that volatile rounds makes it so it explodes, and also it has seeking missiles. Very nice. It's basically a short range colony. I know that sounds really weird because it's like the colony, that's a grenade launcher, but I mean it does very similar damage. I mean, as you can see here, it's doing like 15k per hit and like I'd say 10,000 per burst, which is, I mean, not much better than most pulse rifles, but it's really good since it's basically doing all the extra damage with volatile rounds and void weapon boost. And when Devour is put onto this, you can also get extra DPS with your super. It basically, with every build I make, and most people make, everything builds up to make you stronger and stronger. At least that's the way I make my builds, and I hope you do yourself if you ever make your own. I recommend you do. I'm not saying you don't look at my videos, I mean, please look at my videos. But I recommend, if you want to make a build that is for you, and the best that you can possibly use, I cannot make you the best build for you, but I can make you the best build for most. And that's what I'm gonna do here with my Void 3.0 build. As you can see here, you kill one thing and you just kill everything. That is insane, by the way. Like, when I look at this, I just think, wow, this makes the game easy. They have not nerfed this. I don't know what anyone's talking about nerfing Void 3.0, but you can't nerf what's already broken. This is the new Telesto. I mean, maybe you should try Telesto for this build. Actually might be pretty cool. But now to like the primary weapons. I use Succession for DPS and say like roll. I play a lot of the Vow Disciple recently, so I've been talking about in every video about how I use Roach and what DPS I've gotten with using these builds. Now with this build, I haven't fought Roach yet, but I can tell you that my build wasn't done yet and I got Collective Obligation. I was like, ooh, video idea. So that's where this came from. So I made the build and I already had Succession and Palmyra Beyond, which was doing really good damage, but as you can see here, I switched to the other half for speed. Since I wasn't in a raid, I'm not doing DPS, I'm just trying to have fun. So the other half is a really good substitute for basically fun build, and it's ad clear at its perfection. Like the other half, you just run in, and most people tend to forget this, but swords can get volatile rounds too. Every weapon has volatile rounds. I mean, with this mod, even your ability have volatile rounds because everything explodes when you kill them with a void ability. So basically it's explosions galore, and you can like zoom with your sword and get all the way to the other side of the map with Eager Edge and then explode them that way. Now I'm going to talk about Child of the Old Gods here because it's very important to show the weakening part, because I just realized where you get the weakening from. So you weaken them, does more damage, DPS with your super, and when you have Devour, because of Devouring Depths, you do more damage. I'm pretty sure at one point here I think 212,000 damage in just the initial hit. Now here's my favorite part actually. You see me throw the nade? I have my nade back. I'm gonna throw a nade again in about like 2 seconds here. Oh, I don't throw it yet. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna throw a nade right here, and it will regen extremely fast. I see it right now, and it's back. And then I run over to the other side. I throw a nade, kill all the ads there, pick up the Void Elemental Wells back instantly. And not to mention my health is being regened at an extreme rate due to the Devour being almost always active with this build, and because like Harmonic Siphon, kinda OP, not gonna lie. And also when you don't have your grenade, you can use your melee and you can get your grenade back that way. So you have infinite nades in this build. I'm gonna say that because now you may be saying, hey, Pink Mustache, this is a Vanguard strike, which means that you can just get a higher regeneration of your grenade and melees, which makes it so it's shorter and it's not actually infinite grenades. And I tell you to this, I chose this strike specifically, and I loaded into it specifically instead of going into Vanguard ops, because I wanted to make sure there were no modifications so it would be fair to show these builds. I've been doing it with all of these builds to make sure, like, oh yeah, this build does like 10,000 damage, and then not telling you that Solar Singe was on the entire time. I'm trying to make this build as truthful as possible and most fun as possible for the viewer to make. So I'm sorry if you thought that I was lying to you, but I'm trying to be as truthful as possible. As you can see here, also another one of my favorite scenes from basically like trying to do this strike. This is a really good strike, by the way. Like, I recommend doing this if you want to like just get some ad clear and XP done, because it's really fun, and I spend most of my time when I don't know what to do in Destiny in this strike. So it's a really good strike, and I recommend you do it. But it's also really good to demonstrate the ad clear capabilities and the DPS capabilities of this build. Now, as you can see here, we're in the boss phase. So when you're running through here, I kinda skipped a little bit, but I don't have Devour, and that's kinda bad with Scream, so please stay away from enemies if you do not have Devour, because they can do a good amount of damage. Like you see right there, I got it back, but that was just blind luck. Now for DPS, I threw down Child of the Old Gods, but it ended up being moved over to the enemies over there. I was planning to do it for DPS on the boss because it would have damaged him more and also leached the health off of him, but instead I had to just throw in my sword here, which is good because this is a God Roll sword, so it's gonna be good. But that, you probably don't have the God Roll sword, so you're not always gonna have a perfect DPS with this build if you're trying to use half truths or the other half. I'm sorry, that's not half truths. Please don't use half truths for this build. That's an arc weapon and doesn't work with this build. But let's see. When you pick up wells, there's 2 of them because of the grenades, so you can't really take off bountiful wells. I was planning on making a different build for arc for Warlock. I do have a video for that, so if you want it, just comment. I don't know, cheese is the best ingredient not on a pizza. Hashtag cheese not on pizza or something. Right there, 244,000 damage. That was, I think, 300,000 damage on the boss, and then he kind of just died. So if you wanted a confirmation on the DPS, it's really good. Thank you. Bye.